the guys looking out there?
No, it's been good. I mean, hard pressed to find a coach after the first 2 days that isn't real excited to actually play some semblance of real football, because it's been a long time, and obviously we don't have pads on yet. So, as I say, real football, it's not quite real just yet. But no, excited about I guess all of it. The opportunity to coach some new guys, and some of the guys that were with us a year ago, bigger, faster, stronger, and all those things. So, no, I've been pleased through 2 days, but like I said, it's hard to find a coach who's not.
Alex, you guys bring back a lot of experience. For year two, you guys you've been familiar with from last year. How does that help you building on this defense going into this year?
Well, that's just it. It gives you a chance to build a little bit as opposed to the newness for everybody. You're always you're going to have a percentage of your roster, more so now than ever. We understand that. That's going to be new and doing things for the first time and all those things. But if you can lean on some guys that have been with us, and most specifically have played with us, not just in the locker room, not just in the program, but guys that actually execute on Saturdays, and they bring some scars with them that you can reference, and not in a way of beating them down, but just things, reference points and some of those things, and then they can be lend a hand from a coaching standpoint as well, trying to help the guys that maybe are new in some of those things. And so one of the unique things about this day and age is the guys that come back are guys that you invited back, so there's a expectation in terms of what they bring to the program and those things, and so excited to have those guys.
Following up on that, having a couple core guys come back, what does continuing the success from last season look like now?
Yeah, I think there's nothing we can't do a better job of. I think number one, you circle, highlight, and screen from the rooftops from a takeaway standpoint. That's something that it wins and loses football games, and unfortunately, we found out the latter of the two, which is we lost more games last year than we won because we didn't get enough takeaways. And so, for those guys in particular, just saying, okay, well, we tested the water, saying, can we play okay defensively and still find a way to get a win, but yet not get takeaways? So we tried that, and it didn't work, right? And so, one of the messages for those guys is it's not suggestion, it's not something that's extra credit, and so that's something that is kind of a rallying cry as we go into spring ball and some of those things. And I think partly too is, I kind of referenced it is, what's the difference between extra credit and expectation? Extra credit is just that. Expectation is that we need to get this done. Like, this is not trying, hoping, praying something gets done that way. And so that helps you with guys that have been around you. You can kind of increase the play making, not just being where you need to be and make the play if you have to, but in best case scenario, then you get a chance to go hunt the football and make more plays for you.
When you have guys that are recovering from injury or dealing with something and they're not with you during camp, how does that impact what you're trying to accomplish during spring?
Yeah, one of the things we don't have the luxury, because you only get 15 days, and they don't get you, in spring ball in particular. And same thing in fall camp is we got to advantage it for the percentage of guys that are healthy and going. And so we don't dumb it down for the people that are available versus the guys that aren't, type of thing. Obviously try to get the guys healthy, and also the reality of the roster build anymore is your team, and so we'd rather a guy stay an extra day on the shelf than come back too early and then miss him for the next 13 practices or something like that. So some of those things have changed over the course of time, just simply because your roster, one is your roster, and two, that what you want to do if you have an older group, you can't pretend like they're young, and so try to take advantage of them. So some of those scenarios as well. And then also, as we all know, it's extra reps for other guys, which can be really good. We need those guys to take advantage of.
We just spoke with Ty Bartram a moment ago. Can you kind of explain what stood out when you were in the portal and you evaluated his film from Harvard, and how has his transition been now that he's been at UCF?
Yeah, Ty's done a real nice job. I mean, we've been impressed with him on the field, most specifically. Had an expectation in terms of a guy that could pick up the playbook and really important, I guess, from a coaching standpoint, that you don't not dumb it down, but reduce him to just simply the smart kid from Harvard. And he probably is a smart kid from Harvard, but like, he can play the game. That's why he's here. And so the video in terms of his production, what he was able to do, and have respect for that level of football, and he played a whole lot of it. And so he's a guy that we have high expectations of. It's going to be a quality member of the defense, and then through the first couple of days, and then the weeks prior to this, they counted too. 10 or whatever weeks since we've been back. We do as much football as we possibly can within the rules, and so he's handled all those things. So now excited to add time, another experience, older guy. I've used the reference within the coaching room is that the adult table is a lot bigger than it was a year ago. Using the Thanksgiving example, you got the kids table and the adult table. There's a lot of people at the adult table now. He's one.
You're
Coach,
going to have to replace Malachi Lawrence and Angelic Kelly up on the edges. How do you go about doing that, and how important it is that you maybe finding some guys that can come in and step up and be aggressive on the phone?
Well, and that's it. And sometimes, it's not just a singular guy. In some cases, you look at it through the lens, okay, what this, Isaiah in particular is a guy that's played some football for us. Okay, well, now he's got to step up and be that junior, and make that jump, which we most certainly can in our estimation and expectation in that. And then there's some other guys that have been around or haven't been around that it may be more of a collective effort in some of those things, and that's not always bad. And maybe some cases, if you're evaluating yourself as a coach, you kind of look at it through the lens of, well, that guy's just going to go make a play for you, and then oftentimes it's the case that when it's 11-on-11 football, it's not as simple as that one guy's going to make a play for you. So tall order, and really appreciate what those guys did for us, and their buy-in, and so much of what they did. But now we got to make sure that other guys are taking that next step. And I think Isaiah would be one to circle, highlight as a guy that needs to do that.
Coach, you have a new cornerbacks coach joining you this season with Coach Overstreet. Just talk about what he has brought to this roster and what it's like working with him to kind of create this secondary this season.
Yeah, well, Coach Overstreet's a guy who's been doing it a long time. I got a lot of respect for him. And I think in the NFL for the last 9 years and that, and so it's a unique situation now. When you got specific to that room, we got a lot of older guys in that room, some experience, and so to add a guy to the coaching staff that has coached that mature type of guy, and he probably thinks they're young because they're not the same age you dealt with in the NFL, but to us they're old, and so I just think it's a great fit for us and a great fit for him, and a great fit for that room to have a guy like that. And then most specifically to our room, from a defensive staff standpoint, having a guy from a coverage analysis standpoint, and what he's seen, what he can bring to the table that way is really exciting. So we go way back, and excited to have a chance to work.
Your paths crossed at Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, back when you first got into coaching. So what do you remember about him as a player?
Yeah, I mean, I literally think his I remember as a freshman in college, and he reminds me as a GA, good-looking GA, I think is how he would say it. But no, just a talented dude. Was a quarterback coming out of high school, and a guy that I think by the end of the career, he played a lot of games, started a lot of games, and part of a major build there at the University of Missouri way back when in the Big 12. By the end of his career, they're competing for championship. I think he was a Cotton as a senior type of thing. But and then followed his career from then on, and obviously does a real good job. And, yeah, it's funny connections that go a lot longer back than I sometimes realize.
How much of an impact was it to have a couple turnovers in coaching at that position?
Yeah, I think it can happen, and you can't predict it. And the biggest thing is just making sure that you get the right guys for the staff, and right guys for the program, and guys come and go, and that's but just like players come and go, and in this day and age as well. So
does
just
it
making
throw
sure we get
anything
the right
off
guys.
that you're trying to do?
No, but the guys look at you, and they just want to be coached by real dudes, man. I mean, that's the biggest thing, especially as you get older, and we got some seniors and some juniors and stuff in that room. They want a guy to come in there who's going to enhance their careers, and even the young guys in the room, they want someone who's going to come in there and try to help add value to their name. And so making sure we get the right guys that way is obviously critical. And, guys that are good coaches have a tendency to have other opportunities. Will Johnson's a heck of a coach, and unfortunately the Vikings saw the same thing we did.
Coach, how important was it to bring back linebacker Lewis Carter? Quite frankly, how happy are you that he is back, especially with a new linebacker room around him?
Yeah, and I try really hard not to fall in love with guys, because I don't want to put too much on their plate or expectation-wise, or talk guys up. But it's I'm a Lewis Carter fan, man, and he is a football-playing dude, and excited to, and no one can steal him from us now, so I can say that. But no, Lou's a real one. He plays the game the right way. He runs, he hits, he leads, he does just about everything at the level in which you want it. And can he get better? Absolutely. Coach Nafra does a great job with that room, but no, we can't have enough. I can't say enough positive things, and we can't have enough Lewis Gardner.
Alex, how much of a breath of fresh air, I guess, is it not to have to deal with an April or spring transfer window that you guys had to deal with last year? You mentioned that you don't have to worry about him, leaving, or maybe some of the other players you're working on now leaving as well. How much does that help you guys?
I think it helps everybody. It's just the reality. And honestly, I think as much as anything, you always look at it from a coach's perspective, and we all have a tendency to say things that sound like excuses or negative and all that stuff. But there's a reality to this deal, right? And so you spend a lot of time working with these guys that you want to have a chance to coach them in the fall. But I think most specific to the players, I would suggest, in my opinion, and I'm not saying I'm right, but it eliminates the evaluation that they're making, which allows them to get more content on a day in and day out basis, as opposed to, is this the best place for me if I did all this laundry list of things that can be a major distraction than just trying to be a better football player and commit and dial into a football team for a calendar year. I think that's the biggest thing, is my hope, at least, I guess, would be that a lot of these guys, and granted, it's not just here, so it's going to be everywhere. So it's not necessarily an advantage specifically for us, but just in general, you want these guys to play their best football. And man, if you can eliminate just a little bit of clutter from some of these kids' lives, and allow them to just focus on being students and focus on having their best year of college football, and then they'll figure it out from there. I just think that's a win for some of these guys.
When last season ended, when you were able to kind of evaluate the whole picture, what did you feel like you really needed defensively coming into this season, and how did it shape what you guys philosophically look for in the portal?
Yeah, I think number one, I mentioned takeaways, and I'll make sure to continue to mention that because that was a critical piece to our lack of success last year. I think the other thing as you go through it, and we do a lot in the way of analytics. I don't want to share all those analytics, and I'm not saying we're the only ones that have them, but there's a lot in the way that of making sure from a roster build standpoint that as coaches we have a major focus on those 11 to 22 guys that are on the field. And so one of those things we didn't have a close enough to 22 guys being able to play for us. So that was a major thing as we went into this thing, and telling the guys, if you play the effort, physicality, intensity that we expect over a 12-game scheduled season, you can't play every single snap. And so that's the onus on everybody in that room. It's not a bad thing if you're playing 40 snaps as opposed to 80 snaps. You'll get your best football, and we'll get the best version of you. So that was a major thing coming off of last year. Is one, we won't survive, and on the extreme sense, or we'll only survive. And there's probably too many instances over the course of the year where we talk about strain, which is just that maximum effort on every single snap. There's also just that you turn in survival mode. There's probably too much of that. And I think the other thing I would note on that as well is we have to make sure that when talent's equated, we got to win more battles. And when talent is just one of the obviously predictors from a success standpoint, but we got to punch above our weight a little bit more. And so I was really disappointed in some of those instances over the course of the year. And whether it changed the outcome or not, we'll never know. But I don't know that we played with the effort and focus and belief and tenacity every single game over those 12 that were scheduled. And so that's something that's a major focus as we go into playing more guys and playing at intensity and effort level. Effort's the greatest equalizer in sport, and I think we had it selectively at times last year.
Coach, what's it been like to see Malachi and Nigel get the NFL draft attention that they've been getting over these past couple of weeks? I know you only coached them for a year, and then is there any other NFL hopefuls among the UCF alums that you think people might be overlooking?
Yeah, it's just really cool for those guys. I mean, and like you said, we only had them for a year, but you can just go through as you welcome freshmen in, or you go back to being with guys over the course of time, and it's just an opportunity to play at the highest level of football, and it's a grown man sport, and it's one that there are certain attributes that are required to get to that level, and so when you see guys have that opportunity, and also guys that in their time here, I mean, that laid it on the line and played hard and did the things that were necessary to try to give us the best opportunity to win football games in our time with them. You want them to have success that way, and I think it's a pretty good model in a short period of time. Coach Doss did a great job with those guys, and there's an expectation. Those are the type of guys that we're coaching and producing at a place like UCF. And what we can't have is those guys being the exception, where there's the one-offs every year. bring in older guys possibly, or we develop guys over the course of time. And then also on the same note is understanding in a 12-month period of time we can do some things development. We can help some guys, and that's part of the messaging too, as we bring guys in here. But no, we got to get to the point where that becomes standard operating procedure, and we're not just talking about 2 guys, but the list is longer, in terms of guys that we're able to produce.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks guys.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.